someone that inspired me to get on video and start doing video stuff. He probably doesn't know about that, but during 2018, started watching a lot of videos from Nick, John, Amber, which gave and insurance nerds, which gave the confidence for us to even experiment doing things on video. So with us, we have John Bachmann. John, do you want to do a quick introduction?
Yeah, so I'm John Bachmann, insurance nerd, like you mentioned there. But I'm the insurance industry principal at experience.com, and maybe we can chat a little bit about that at some point. But spent my whole professional career in the insurance space, and it's going on over 20 years now, and just something I'm passionate about, and especially on the claim side of things.
Nice.
Some Brent and Nick, quick introductions.
Hey everyone, I'm Brent Williams, founder and CEO of Benekiva.
And I'm Nick Lamparelli, Chief Underwriting Officer at Rethought Insurance and host of the newest InsurTech podcast, the Yellow Book Road podcast.
So John, since you're our guest of honor for our Happy Fridays, we share happy stories, gratitude stories of the week. Could be work, professional, could be both. So would you like to start us off?
Yeah, so we'll go the professional route right now. It's a huge story for us because when I mentioned experience.com, I'm sure some of you are like, what the hell is experience.com? Because you see me working with Social Survey. We just went through a massive brand overhaul, switching over from Social Survey to experience.com, which it just makes so much sense for us. It's more aligned with our mission, our goals, and ultimately our new platform, which we're in the process of releasing right now too. So exciting times for us over at experience.com to be able to do both of those major things at the same time. Huge undertaking. And then behind the scenes, we're switching over to a new CRM too. So nothing like doing everything all at once, right? But it's pretty exciting times for us over at experience.com. So excited about it.
Nice.
Awesome, John. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. That's awesome news.
Yeah.
Anything else you would like to share before we hand over the floor to Brent or Nick?
If John doesn't share Macho Man Randy Savage versus Ricky Steamboat, I will be very disappointed.
Well, that's the thing. I didn't know if this was full back and forth just yet or what.
It is an informal format. We can do whatever we want.
Yeah. So what Nick is referring to is I put a post on Twitter yesterday. At the end of the day, I noticed that on Peacock, the Peacock app, that all of the WWE World Wrestling content has been pushed over there because of a big deal. And I was like, you know what? I was so big into this as a kid. My son's starting to get into it, but he's watching the new stuff. And you know what? I watch it with him, but I'm not that jazzed.
Not the same.
Yeah. But everybody thinks back to the old WrestleMania 3 was the big one with Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant. It was such a big event. But when I watched it live when I was a kid, my old man, he recorded it on VHS. And I probably watched that, I said 100 times. It was probably more than 100 times. And I beginning to end all 3 hours. And what's crazy is because I haven't seen it since I was a kid, the opening of it was Vince McMahon introducing everybody at the Pontiac Silverdome. And then it went right into Aretha Franklin singing America the Beautiful. And I remember singing that with her when I was a kid. And I'm getting chills about it right now too, because it like pushed me back to when I was a kid. It was so cool. And yeah, my wife's probably going to hate me because I'm going to start watching all these old wrestling WrestleManias and stuff. But it was just so cool. I felt like a kid sitting there watching it. And yeah, I was sitting there watching it by myself.
So it's on Peacock now? They have I totally missed that update. Because
Yeah,
I used to watch as a kid. My brother and I used to watch on TV. Loved wrestling. Watching wrestling. It was so funny. It was so cool. So
I've gone through these up and downs, and it's crazy that we're going down this wrestling talk because it's something I've been looking at myself going, what is happening here? But when I was a young kid, that's when wrestling was really starting to get a national foothold. and I was really into it. And then it kind of faded off. And then in high school and right about the time I was starting college is when it started picking up nationally again. And you've heard about the Monday Night Wars if you're into wrestling at all. And that was going up. And then it tapered down. And it seems like it's starting to go back up again. And they're sucking me back in. But what happened, Bobbie, is WWE sold all the content to NBC Universal. So they put it all up on Peacock. And they had a WWE network or channel that's where you could watch all the pay-per-views, all the other content, and that's going away. So now all the pay-per-views are going to be accessible through Peacock as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think my husband will just start hating me because I love that stuff. Love that stuff. Okay, that just made my happy Friday, by the way. I had no idea.
I mean, I remember as a grade schooler, it was the one thing that united males and females, right? Like, you know, we rooted for different things, but it was like I could go in on a Monday and talk about Saturday wrestling with girls, with boys, with teachers. Like it was, you know, it was just a thing, and it was fun. And you know how much, you know, we would fake the moves during recess. And like you, John, I also went through ups and downs as well. And for you guys, if anyone that's potentially listening, YouTube has a documentary on the Iron Sheik, which is fantastic and phenomenal. Like one of those peaks, John, would not have happened without the Iron Sheik. Like the transition from Bob Backlund to Hulk Hogan could not have happened. And there were like so many wrestlers, they're just like, there's no Hulkamania if there's no Iron Sheik. Like that was an absolute requirement at that time with the U.S. and tensions with Iran. So it also brings back so many memories of me growing up as well, and my friends, and buying Pro Wrestling Illustrated and the other wrestling magazines. That was our thing.
And I've always been intrigued anyways, no matter what the topic is, it kind of the behind the scenes stuff. And what's happening now all over YouTube and whatnot, and actually even on some network television, is they're doing a lot of behind the scene things, like the podcast. God, his name, Jim Cornette. He's got a big podcast out there that's talking about all the behind the scenes. And he was big in WCW and then later with WWF. But all the behind the scenes stories. And then there's the Dark Side of the Ring series that started last year or the year before, that it's like, oh my God, I remember that guy. And then hearing all these awful stories about what was happening behind the scenes as well. That stuff intrigues me. And that's kind of what sucked me in now. And I think why my son has been starting to get in on it as well. So, but I was in this recess yard as well. And I told my kids this, especially my son, I said, don't try those moves. I used to try to do those moves. Somebody gave me a DDT on the cement ground, and your head against the ground, it doesn't work out well. And I ended up with a concussion in grade school, had to go home from school because we were doing that stupid stuff.
I had a friend in high school that actually, because he was so influenced by this, they had like in a town 30 minutes away, like a profession. They would train these professionals to get selected into those the wrestlings, and he was big into it. And I think he did it for years, just as a hobby. But I mean, he didn't go anywhere. So.
Well, that's the story too. We actually, so my wife and I, we worked at the same insurance company. That's where we met. And at that insurance company, there was a guy, I think she worked with him at one point on the sales team before she moved to marketing. But there was a guy, he was a wrestler, and he did it professionally, regionally. And when the WWF would come to town, he'd be one of the jobbers or the security guards that were there. And so he showed up on TV, but regionally, in those regional, he won the heavyweight title and whatnot. And it's crazy thinking about it. Here's this insurance salesperson, inside salesperson for an insurance company that his side gig is wrestling around with other behemoths.
Don't mess with insurance.
Yeah.
There's a wide talent and interests going all around.
I should do my happy story in a macho man voice. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Good, I'll go. That was going to be my happy story. So when one of them, John, when you did you did your short business one, I was like, I can't just have that. So my other happy story is my daughter came to visit Florida for a couple weeks. I hadn't seen her in 14 months.
Oh wow!
It was awesome. Put her on a plane yesterday, so she's going back up to Haverhill, John. My old stomping grounds. That's where John lives now. So that was awesome. And for you productivity nuts, I just got a contour. You can kind of see it here, right? And so if you're editing video, I use it for Excel as well. It's got programmable keys. So I can literally, when I'm doing video stuff, just use the Shuttle Pro Contour to move around and cut my videos. I just need a mouse and the contour. I'm pretty much good to go. Productivity makes me very happy. So those are my
to investigate.
$100. You can't go wrong. Programmable keys. Any application. Doesn't even have to be just videos or audios. I use it for Excel. I use it for Chrome. It's pretty sweet.
Nice.
So on the productivity side of things, I just finished up the book, The 12-Week Year, if you're familiar with it. And plan to put that into play on Monday. I've already done the groundwork, but I'm excited about that. I'm not one that typically wrote down their goals or the tactics for weeks, days, months, fake years. So it's going to be interesting. I'm excited about it. I'm hearing nothing but good stuff.
12-week year?
12-week year, yeah.
Yeah, I use that in my financial advisory firm. It works as long as you stick to the program.
Right.
Yep.
And that's, when you're writing it down, it holds you to it, right? And if you're keeping score and you look at all of a sudden things aren't going so well, what are you going to do about it? So
Yeah.
So it's out of the norm for me. So we'll see how that turns out.
Huh.
Yeah.
I need to add
You'll like
that
it.
to my list.
It's a good program.
Brent, do you want to go next?
Yeah, so my Happy Friday story, I got a couple business ones. The first one, I'll start off with the first one. We obviously we've got a lot of clients, and a lot of them are in different phases of either proof of concept, implementation, or software as a service. And typically we'll reach out to these clients every so often just to see how things are going and what their feedback is. And I was happy to receive an email yesterday back that said, "We're so impressed with your entire team, and you guys have lived up to everything you said you do. And from a vendor client perspective, it's just unbelievable." And then they even gave a shout out to a couple of the employees. And so of course we shared that internally and with them. But that kind of stuff just makes me really happy. And Bobbie got an similar email last week from another client. So I mean, just stuff like that we're doing what we say we can do, and we're executing like we say we can execute. And to get that positive feedback from the client is really cool. So that was the first one. The second one is, we're always, all of our businesses, right? We're always trying to get more clients. And we'd had a conversation with a specific tier one quite a while ago, and they said, "Oh, we're interested, but claims isn't a priority." And the same old song and dance. And all of a sudden I get an email in the inbox that says, "Hey, we're launching a new product, and first people who thought it was Benekiba." And so now we're in discussions with them again. So I mean, it just goes to show you that all of the little things, these little Happy Fridays and LinkedIn posts, and sharing in your email campaigns and things like that, those things aren't going to be, you're not going to see the fruits of those labors today, right? You might see them 6 months from now, but they are things that you need to continue to keep doing and keep pedal to the metal on those things. So those two things were really just made my week. So
ABS, Brent, always be planting seeds.
yeah,
Always be seeding.
yeah,
Always.
yep, that's true.
It is so true. You know, there's that element of business development where, you know, you reach out, you have the meeting, it's not a good fit, not a good time at that moment. What you brought up is very interesting and very important, because there's that, how do you follow up?
Yeah,
Well, if you're constantly out there giving, right, providing, giving insights, you're on people's news feeds.
mm-hmm.
You show up,
Yep.
right? And you don't, like, that's a very subtle follow-up.
Mm-hmm.
That's a, you know, think of that sort of marketing as, you know, billboard advertising, right? It's like, you can't measure it. You
Yeah.
can't tell if the deal happened just because of that, but there's a compounding effect of just doing it and doing it consistently, and just you're on their mind, and you show up on their news feed, and you show up elsewhere, and it's like, oh yeah, Benakiva, they were the ones that did this, you know. And
Yep.
so always be seeding,
Yeah,
planting seeds and
Agree.
nourishing them.
agree.
I would just add, be authentic too. I think that's the
Yeah.
piece.
You can't
that
fake it.
can't fake content, right? Like, how many times do we see content, like folks get into content and they just create something, they stop, right? They're really genuine about it. I think if we are really true to who we are and just produce content from heart, you know, and not just, you know, copy, or, you know, hey, this person's doing it, I'm going to do it too. You know, you can get inspiration, but it's got to come from you. It's got to come from within. And the big piece, Nick, you said it, givers, right?
Yeah.
There's a whole notion of give and take. If you haven't read Adam Grant's book, Give and Take, I heard him at a keynote speak a few years back. It's scientific, like, he's the research base, but you can't be too much giving, you can't be too much taking, but ultimately givers win at the end. So you can't have this mindset of, I'm going to give you a little and then I'm going to take it from you too. Like, you can't have that.
You can't expect the taking.
No, you just gotta give.
With no expectations of getting back.
Yeah.
Right. And so you give until, you know, you get to the point where it's just like, I can't give anymore, but this is what I'm willing to give without any expectations of taking. And to add to that, Bobbie, it is a turnoff when I see people who, you know, sign up for a service. Like, for a while, I was connecting with people, with agencies on Twitter, and all of a sudden I'm going through my feed, and it's like the same article over and over and over again. I'm like, oh, they're all subscribing to the same service, and the service is doing the work for them. It's like unfollow, 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 unfollow. There's an evolution of this, and you have to be authentic. Like, you have to be part of that. You can't outsource 100% that authenticity, because you will lose the authenticity of it. If, you know, Bobbie, if you weren't posting on Twitter the way that you do, and you outsource this, it would be very noticeable, because it's like, it's not Bobbie's personality. It's noticeable. Like, that's part of what's attractive too, is when you are authentic, people are attracted to that.
And you touched on something there, Nick, and Hanley, our boy Ryan Hanley, he lays it out perfectly. He wrote it in his book, and he says it all the time, but it's give without the expectation of reciprocity. Just give for the sake of giving, and things will come back, but you shouldn't expect it to come back.
Yeah.
Sometimes they come back in interesting ways, like, you know, getting a contract with a tier 1 insurer. Right? Like, you can't tie those together. You don't know if that was what was it, but there's just, I don't know. It's a positive karma thing that you just have to think, like, I think there was a correlation between all of this extra stuff that we're doing and what happened.
Yeah.
I think Brent took one of my happy stories. That piece that Brent's talking about is, we had a convo with them last week, sent them a high level proposal this week. It happened so fast, right? And when you look at the genesis of it, it was an email that was sent out with some content. And I think that it just pays dividends, and it's really cool to see when things work, right? When we sometimes as startups, it's hard to invest, right, in marketing. But marketing, you shouldn't look at it as a cost. It's an investment, because it will pay dividends. Maybe not now, it will pay dividends long term.
Completely.
Yep.
It is an investment.
So I'll wrap up quickly on my happy story, which I have been procrastinating in and out. I've been reading this book, Ray Dalio Principles. I'm like almost halfway through.
2018, by the way.
Do what?
Which I told her to read in 2018, by the way.
And if you go to my Twitter, you'll see one of my posts. I'm just kidding. So I'm reading this book, and what I'm doing with this is I'm doing a video journal on TikTok around my reflections, my thought process of what each principle means to me. And I'm getting the dialogue started. If somebody wants to have a dialogue, do it on TikTok, or I'm posting it on LinkedIn, which, sometimes when we read books like this, right? This is a big book, right? Has a lot of detail. So how do you remember those details, right? Like, instead of going back and bookmarking and notating, if this is more selfish for me as it is for anybody. If I video journal, then I can go back and listen to what I journaled about, right?
It's a great idea. Yeah.
So I'll remember, like, I'll hear it, I've read it, I've heard it, I've posted about it. Now it's kind of sinking in, which has made me happy. Like, I've done 3 videos thus far on principles. I'm a little bit behind because I'm loving it so much that I'm reading a lot of it, and I can't video fast enough. So, but it's letting me reflect back too on some of the other principles.
I think that's a great point, because even if you don't go and watch it back, because you're talking about it and you're teaching somebody else about it, it's just reinforcing it in your own brain. It's
sinking in.
Yeah. And I'm jotting that down. I'm stealing that one right now too.
We should do a thing.
Yeah.
Where we do that. We should do a book club.
Yeah.
I'm up. No fiction for me though.
Yeah.
It's got to be like fun business books, but I'm in.
Nick, you
Anybody's
always
interested who's listening? Hey, Nick, you know what we could do? John has to get an upgraded phone. We could do stuff like this on Clubhouse.
Well, Twitter Spaces is coming soon, which is the Clubhouse version on Twitter, and we already have the network there, so that we could just set it up on there.
Okay.
That way we don't have to keep John out. Oh yeah, John.
Well, you know something, Nick.
Get my hands on you.
Well, this wraps up our Happy Friday for the week. John, thank you so much for being our guest of honor. And until next time, Happy Friday, everyone.
Appreciate you guys.